Hello, BookTube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. And today, I think what I want to do is just do a quick summary of my 20 by 20 challenge. Now, if you've been following me for a little while, you might have not heard what that's about. If you've been following me for a long time, then you've heard about it repeatedly, and you're probably sick to death of hearing about it. So, just for the sake of getting us all on the same page, it was basically an idea that I had that came from the Stacking the Series challenge that I first heard introduced by Sarah from the Bookish Knitter several years ago. She talked about this challenge that they do in the Romance Readers Reading Group. The Triple RC, I believe, is what they call themselves. And the idea is you stack up series. So you might say, okay, I'm going to read 7 series. So my bottom stack is going to have 7 books. And then I'm going to pick a series that has 6 books. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that you have a stack of 7, but the number of each stack ascends with the amount of stacks that you have. So that didn't work exactly for me, but I knew I wanted to give it a try, and so I came up with 20 different lists or categories, and I pretty much set it up the same way so that my number 1 thing was just one thing, and my number 20 stack had 20 things in it. But instead of individual series per stack, I did, for the most part, series. So like my stack of 20 is 20 different series and so forth, with some exceptions. So let me just go through basically what I did and the group that each stack represented. In this video, I'm not going to go through each individual thing in every stack. I might hit some of the highlights, but I don't have a lot of time today. It's already near the end of the day and I need to go and get dinner ready and all of that. But I've been sitting literally at the kitchen table while Emily's doing her schoolwork, and in between when she's not, when I can get on the computer. And I have just been going round and round for like 3 days now, just trying to sort out how I want to present this. Like, I know I need to wrap this up and maybe tell my favorites, and then I need to move forward and talk about the series that I'm reading, what I'm still reading, what I finished, different challenges, my goals, and I'm just so overwhelmed with it all right now that I think I just need to peel the onion. And the first layer of the onion is to talk about my 20 by 20 challenge, and then I'll get into the nitty-gritty of things, and probably I will break down my series talks into categories or genres, like maybe talk about all the middle grade series together and my cozy mysteries together and things like that. That way, those of you who are interested in one thing or another don't have to get, bogged down in all of my mess. So, here we go. My stack 20 is or was a stack of 20 series that I wanted to start in a 3-year period. And I think I neglected to say that 20 by 20 for me started at the beginning of 2018, and I gave myself 3 years to do this project. The reason I did that is because I knew that I couldn't get all of these goals met in 1 year, and I felt like I needed a little more time, and 20 stacks by the end of 2020 had a nice ring to it, and so I thought I will just give myself 3 years to do it. I think going forward, I will stick to smaller challenges that I can get done within a year, because 3 years is a pretty big time commitment to something, and it's nice to be able to wrap things up within a year. I didn't mind doing it because I'm a finisher, but I know it would be real easy to just kind of get bored with it and say, okay, forget this, I'm moving on to something else. And I do tend to be kind of an ADD reader, so it's kind of interesting that I'm not an ADD person when it comes to finishing. I do like to finish things. Now, I might finish things out of order. I mean, like, I might flit around with what I'm reading, but anyway, I still do like to finish things. And so of my 20 stacks, I think I did make a total of how many stacks I considered finished, like how many I completed. But let me go through each one, and then we'll sort that out when we get there. So I made a list of 20 series that I wanted to start. I only started 12 of those original 20. And I had said that I wanted to cap it at 20 and not start any more than 20 series. Well, by the end of 2018, that's about where I was. I had started about a total of 20 series, and so I continued to start more and more. Now, I did finish some of what I started. In fact, of the original 12 series, I finished or caught up with 7 of those original 12. So I think that's pretty good. But going forward, I have now, I think, 80 something series that are ongoing. Now, I had a lot of series I had already started that I worked on during my 20 by 20. And, the idea was, let's not start any more than 20. And so I kind of failed at that, but I did good with what I did. So where I did sort of win is that when I started to see that I was starting a lot of others that weren't even on the list, I held back and I didn't insist to myself that I start all 20 of these on the list, so that I wasn't starting, 3 times as many as I set out to. So of the ones I started, I think the one I'm most excited about reading, and I did start and finish it during the 3-year period, is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. That was such an epic journey through that book and the series, and I loved it so much more than I ever thought I would love a Western. And I'm not opposed to Westerns, I just hadn't read that many. I've got a few others on my shelf that I would like to read, but I will tell you, that was an epic book, and I'm so glad I read it. It was hosted by Ange and Elena, I believe. They did a read-along of that in the beginning of 2018, and then I went on in 2019, and I read the other 3. Actually, I listened to all 4 of those. I bought them on Audible, and I still own them, and I would read them again. So then the next page is 19 completed YA or middle grade series that I started prior to 2018. And by completed, I mean that, to my knowledge, the author has finished writing those series. And they were all YA or middle grade, and I finished almost all of the series. Not only, I made progress in all 19 of them, and I finished 16 of the 19. So the only ones I still have left to read, I have 1 book left in the Penderwicks, and I am happy to say I'm going to be buddy reading that with Krista from Books and Jams later this month. And then I did not quite finish the Last Survivors series, which is the Moon books, Katie used to call them. I've still got 1 more to read there. And I didn't finish the Lunar Chronicles. I knew that I probably wasn't going to finish the Lunar Chronicles because I started rereading them. The only ones I haven't read are the last book of short stories and the very last book, Winter. I've listened to all the others on audio, but I wanted to go back and just read them all in print because I own them all now and I wanted to read them. So those were the only ones on that whole list that I didn't completely finish and catch up with. So I consider that list a win. Then number 18, my stack of 18 was 6 trilogies, and I finished 5 of the 6 trilogies. I really wanted to finish that last one, but the problem was that the first 2 books on that trilogy that I didn't get read are not on audio. The 3rd book is on audio, but the first 2 are not. I picked it up in December, tried to see if I could maybe read through it, but I just couldn't. I didn't want to rush it, and I'll tell you more about that series later on. But the series I did finish that I read completely that were on my original list, the Butternut Creek series, and I did not write the author of that down. The Herdmans, which is a middle grade series. Actually, it's probably an elementary series. It's phenomenal. Mark of the Lion by Francine Rivers, The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, and the Candlewood series by Delia Parr, the Candlewood trilogy. I read those with my sister. So that was definitely a win, except for that last trilogy that I just could not get done. And I did also, interestingly enough, I believe that for each of the 3 years, I did start and complete a total of 3 other trilogies not listed here. So I read plenty of trilogies, but mostly all audio. Then number 17 was 17 uncompleted series that I started reading prior to 2018. Some of them were adult series and some of them were middle grade series, and I made progress in every single series on the list. So that is definitely a win. 16 is 16 nonfiction books, a minimum of 16 nonfiction books each year of the challenge. And I believe I met that and came out ahead. So I read or listened to more than 16 nonfiction books in each of the 3 years of this challenge. Same thing for 15, which was big books or books that are 400 pages or more. And I believe that I did read 15 or more books each year for the 3 years of the challenge. Most of them were on audio, but I still consider that a win. You know, they're done. And I did not quite reach my goals for 14. Stack number 14 is 14 cozy mysteries, and I had a specific list of series, the 14 series that I most wanted to read. And there were still 2 series out of this list of 14 that I did not make any progress in during those 3 years. And I have mentioned them in several videos not too long ago, so you probably already know what those are. But of the other 14 series, some of those I caught up with, some of them are finished and I finished them. So I definitely got a lot of reading done in Cozy Mysteries. And so I will be doing more videos about the Cozy Mystery series that I have finished and what I'm still reading and ones I want to start. There'll be a whole series of talks about mysteries, and they'll probably be closer to March Mystery Madness because we always like to do some mystery related videos right before and during the month of March. So you'll be hearing more about the Cozy Mysteries that I finished and that I'm still reading. So then number 13 was a series. It was the series of Unfortunate Events, which is a series of 13 books. I read the first book in 2018, and then I think I didn't read. I was thinking maybe I read it again in 2019, but I didn't. I didn't get to the next one in 2019, but I had 12 left, and so I made it a goal to read one a month for every month in the month or in the year 2020. And I pretty much did that for all intents and purposes. I did miss the November one, and I listened to both of them at the beginning of December. And so I did end up finishing it early in December, and it was such a unique series. Just really fun. And stack 12 was Christmas-themed books. My goal was to read at least 12 Christmas-themed books or books set at Christmas time each year during the 3-year period. And I believe I did. I didn't write them all down here, but I'm pretty sure I did. My stack 11 was a pretty big fail. It was to read at least 11 Grace Livingston Hill books. She was a favorite author of mine back in my 20s. She's an old, very prolific Christian author, and wrote most of her books starting in the early 1900s up through the 40s, and just so good. And I read 2. In a 3-year period, I only read 2. It's sad. But I really enjoyed them. Now, the one I just finally finished in December, A Girl to Come Home To, was a little disjointed, and I talked about that, I think, in my wrap-up. But definitely still a project that I want to continue because I think I own now all 100 Grace Livingston Hill books. There may be one I don't have, but I just want to read through them systematically this time because I don't remember which ones I read and which ones I didn't read. And then stack 10 is a stack that I'm going to do another video on, a whole video on this subject, and that is collected authors I've never read. I started this project several years ago when I started realizing that I had collected a lot of authors that I had not ever read the first book by. And so my criteria for a collected author I've never read is that I own 4 books or more by that author before I start reading them. And I have read quite a few of those as I have, continued to set goals. I have read several. So for the 20 by 20 challenge, I said that I wanted to read at least 10 of my collected authors during the 3-year period. Not 10 per year, but 10 over the period of 3 years. And I did that. So the authors that I read, some of them are cozy mystery authors, but not all of them. Lee Goldberg, he writes the Monk series. Betty Hechtman, who writes the crochet series, Crochet Mysteries. Miranda James, who writes the Cat in the Stacks mysteries. Thomas Kincaid, who writes the Cape Light series. Delia Parr, who I buddy read the Candlewood trilogy with my sister. Julie Heisey, who writes the White House Chef Mysteries series, as well as other cozy mysteries. Chris Colfer from Glee, who wrote the Land of Stories series. Emily Brightwell, who writes Mrs. Jeffries' cozy mystery series. Charlene Ann Bombick, who wrote the Dearest Dorothy series, which is such a fun series. I'm reading the second one now. And then I think, and then the 10th one I just finished in December is Adriana Trigiani. I read Kiss Carlo, and it was fantastic. So I have read 10 of my collected authors. Now, I've got a list of probably 20 more that I've collected, but I got 10 of them. I tried out 10 of them. Okay, my number 9 stack was 9 completed adult series that I had started prior to this challenge, and I wanted to finish them. I had a total of 9 series, and I believe I finished 6 of them. I finished the Cherry Cola Book Club series. I finished Harmony by Jodie Thomas. I finished may have only finished 5 of them. I finished the Yellow Rose trilogy by Lori Wick, and I finished the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, and I finished the Amish Country Crossroads by Beverly Lewis. I did not finish Welcome to Tyler by various authors. That's an old Harlequin series that I'm buddy reading with Mandy Garrett, the Night Owl. And I did not quite finish Harmony by Philip Gulley. I've got 1 left to read. I had originally the Thrush Green series by Miss Reed on here, and I amended it and added in Fair Acre. And so basically it was just anything by Miss Reed I wanted to read. I did make progress in that, but I did not finish either of those series. And I didn't really want to. I want to savor those. I kind of decided I just wasn't going to rush through those. I still have 2 books left in the Brides of the West series by Laurie Copeland, and that's it. So I finished some, didn't finish all of them, but I'm still real happy about what I got done. Then stack number 8 was 8 standalone books that had been on my 2017 TBR. They were all books that I owned except for 1, and I ended up finishing 6 of the 8. One of them I started and I did not finish. I will come back to it, but it just, I just couldn't finish it at the time, and I didn't make it back to it. And then 1 I didn't start yet. So not too bad, but I didn't quite make that goal. Then number 7 was just kind of a weird category. I kind of floundered around about what to even put there. Finally, what I ended up putting there was children's classics or kid detectives. Basically, children's books or books about kids, or really detective books for kids. And so it's kind of a mixed bag, but that's just really all I could come up with. And I didn't think I had met that goal this year. That was 7 books each year during the challenge. But I ended up, I actually did. If you combine the children's classics plus kid detective books, I did make enough. I did read enough to make 7, I think 9 maybe. Then number 6 was to read 6 impulse reads. And that was basically to just allow myself to read something just because. It could not be something for another challenge or another, couldn't be for book club. It couldn't be for anything. It just was something I saw and thought, ooh, I want to read that, and I read it. So I did make that goal. In fact, I had a couple of extras, more than I thought I would. And then number 5 was my lists. I have 5 lists of things that I wanted to read from each year. One list is the Sunshine State list, Sunshine State Young Reader Award finalists, and I read those each year. In fact, I just finished this school year's right before the end of the year. Another list that was just I kind of floundered with was any online book clubs, like cozy mystery book clubs. I did read at least 1 every year, I think. I read some with Di from Dice's 19 Hearts, who hosts the Book One Cozies Club. And I read one back in 2018 that was a part of Courtney the Cortagonist's book club. She's changed book clubs now, and I haven't read anything with her new club, but I did read one with her in 2018. So basically online book clubs. And then another list is my library book club, the Literati book club. And then the other list is my Whodunit mystery book club. Both of those are book clubs that meet locally at the library. And then I had another book club that was meeting. So that was my 5th list. And, oh, no. It wasn't. That was just kind of extra. They got added on. My fifth list is Newbery winners. So I have been reading systematically in my mind, reading through the Newbery winners and doing videos about each decade as I get them done. So those are my 5 lists that I read from each year. Then my number 4 was basically 4 cozy mystery series to start each year. I said I was going to allow myself to start 4 cozy mystery series just because. Like, it couldn't be for book club. Well, I mean, it could be, but my thought process was that for book club, I sort of have to read those. And I have some on my shelves that I just want to read. So I wanted to allow myself to read some just because. And it turns out I did not read 4 each year just because. Most of the ones I started were because somebody else was reading it or because I had a challenge or something. So I did start some. There was one out of my TBR jar, so I didn't read it just because. I read it because it was in my TBR jar, and that was Maisie Dobbs. I started the novel Idea series by Lucy Artington, but that was with Di from Dice's 19 Hearts. I did start the Mrs. Jeffrey series, but actually that was for Victober. So yeah, everything was because of something. Okay, we're almost done. My stack 3 was 3 series I wanted to read from start to finish, and I only of the 3 original series I picked, I only read 1 of the series start to finish, and I didn't even start the other 2. The series I did read start to finish, I restarted it, and that was the Kingdom Keeper series by Ridley Pearson. I had read 1 and maybe 2 previously, but it had been a while, so I just started over, and I read all 7. I listened to them on audio, and then also I did listen to 7.5, which is a segue into the spinoff series. So I did finish that. I had 2 other series that I didn't even start, and I'll tell you about those later because I didn't pull them out to show them to you. One was a series of 5 by Lori Copeland and Virginia Smith, and another was a series of 4. I'll tell you. It was the Piggly Wiggly series by Robert Dalby, who is actually also Ashton Lee, who wrote the Cherry Cola Book Club. Little tidbit there. I did not know when I first put that on my list. Okay, number 2 was my auto reads, my 2 top most favorite authors. If they got that I'm caught up with, if they came out with a new book during this 3-year period, I was going to read it, and I did. In fact, one of them is Jan Karon, and I believe that Bathed in Prayer came out during this 3-year period, and I first got an arc of it from Emily Sears. She sent me an arc, and then my family got me this one for Christmas that year. It's a wonderful book. It's something you don't want to read if you have not read Mitford, because it will give you a lot of spoilers for the Mitford series. But this is just little tidbits from the series, and it's beautiful. And then and it focuses on prayer. And then the one I just finished last month, The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop by Fannie Flagg. I love this. It was great. And I'm so excited that she wrote another book that pertains to Whistle Stop, because it's literally like 35 years since Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe was published. And so who knew? Whoever thought she would come out with a sequel? And it was very, very good. A little slow getting started, but that's to be expected. And for fans of Fannie Flagg and of the original book, I think you'll still really love it. So I was excited about that. And then my number 1 was to read the Bible. For the second time in my life ever, I read the Bible all the way through. I didn't get started until February of 2018, and I finished up on the last day of December of 2020, and I averaged a chapter a day, sometimes more, and I had a great experience reading the Bible again for the second time ever in my life, and I'm excited that I got it done. So anyway, that is basically a wrap up of my 20 by 20 challenge. I probably will do some kind of a stats video maybe for 2020 and just talk about some of my reading stats. But honestly, I've been staring at my books for like the last 3 days, and I'm kind of almost ready to just move on. So I may not do that. I don't know. What I want to do really is just tell you about some of my favorites and tell you about the series that I'm reading. That's really what I'm most excited about continuing on this year is series, because I started a challenge called Get Serious About Series, and several of you have joined my Goodreads group and have shared your TBR for that challenge, and that's going to be all year long. So if you haven't gotten in on that, I hope you will. I have not yet posted my list because I think I finally just figured it out today, the 21 series that I think I can finish in 2021. So, and you don't have to make that goal. It can be anything. It can be just 21 series books you want to read, or just whatever series books you want to read. It doesn't even have to be 21, but that's kind of the goal. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. I will be back soon, hopefully tomorrow, with a Friday Reads, maybe a library haul. I went to the library today and I got some pretty cool books. And that's all for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.